um, just happened to fall on Saturday with Mother's Day, of course, on Sunday. So I drove up to Dallas for the weekend and spent time with my mom and the family. And then this morning I got up super early and drove back down.
Yeah.
So
You're a good son.
Well, I'm working on it. I don't know if I'm the best son, but I'm working on it. Did you have a good Mother's Day weekend?
I did. My kids are back east and my grandkids are back east. And, so we chatted and texted and all that good stuff. And my husband took me on a garden tour, which was really awesome.
Oh, lovely. Well, what's a garden tour?
I live in Auburn, California, which is in the Sierra foothills. And every year, the master gardeners for the last 35 years have put on this amazing garden show. And there were 6 of them all over the area. And they were just amazing. It's like, I'm a gardener myself, but I live on a small lot now. We used to have acreage, but we moved into town. And now, it's like I don't have the big land that I used to have to garden in. And I was in such awe and such envy.
I am really good at killing plants. I'm not the best at growing them, but I'm very good at planting them and then having to unplant and then plant new ones. So that seems to be my sweet spot in the gardening area.
Understood.
Right. Are you ready to get started, Lexy?
Sure.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to the CXR channel, our premier podcast for talent acquisition and talent management. Listen in as the CXR community discusses a wide range of topics focused on attracting, engaging, and retaining the best talent. We're glad you're here.
Okay, welcome back to the show, watchers and listeners. We've had a whole week to think about what we're going to talk about today. And of course, the topic du jour is going to be inclusion, analytics, and data ethics. But before I introduce our guest, I want to remind you that the subscribe and share buttons that are actually on your device, they are not cosmetic. They actually work. And they are a great way to make sure you don't miss any of these sort of 20-minute chats that we do with recruiting industry leaders and practitioners. If you are with us live on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, you should drop a hello or a thumbs up in the live chat. We can say hi right back to you, certainly connect with you. You can also pop a question or comment in there, and we'll see if we can get to that or at least follow up with you directly. Now, with us today is another, first-time guest on the show. It's Lexy Martin. Lexy is the chairperson of the People Intelligence Alliance Council. And similarly to Career Crossroads, as a community of practitioners and leaders that are sort of passionate about various aspects of TA, the PIA is a community of folks who could be called data lovers, who are certainly on a mission. And we are most definitely going to talk about that. Lexy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was a great introduction.
Well, thank you very much, Lexy. For those who don't know you or who may not have had the pleasure of meeting you, can you give us what I like to call sort of an escalator pitch about who is Lexy? Like just a spiel of like a little bit of your background and what you're excited about and kind of why the PAA, why is data something that we want to talk about today?
Absolutely. So, yeah, for those of you that don't know me, I'm a really long time researcher. So I'm a research geek. I love data also. And I think I'm probably best known for the fact that I started and managed the Sierra Cedar HR Systems survey that focused on HR technology adoption and the value that organizations get from adopting all that technology. I managed that for its first 15 years. It's since been taken over by Stacey Harris, who I hired. And it's now called the Sapient Insights Survey. I joined Vizier 6 years ago, and now I focus on the value of applying people analytics. And I work with our customers to tell their stories about the financial value they get from adopting people analytics, but also the value they get from adopting people analytics and using it to improve their diversity and their inclusion and their equity. And as you mentioned, my latest role is as the chair of the People Intelligence Alliance Thought Leadership Council. A lot of words there.
It's a mouthful. Lexi, let me ask you, when we talk about like when we say people analytics, for those who may not be familiar with it, what are we actually talking about? What makes up people analytics?
Oh my gosh. Well, what we're going to talk about a little bit today is, really it's all the data about your people that's needed to make the best business decisions. So it's data about your employees, it's data about your extended workforce, it's, for your audience, it's talent acquisition data. It's, all that data that enables your people to attract, engage, and, ultimately hire such that organizations can retain employees. And there's just such a breadth of data that can be brought to bear to improve the decisions we make about individual people, about the humans that work for us. Is that enough?
Yeah, it does. And I think we've seen most recently a real increase on, for years and years, the people analytics piece, right? The people data has been important. But I think over the last maybe, and correct me if you feel differently about this, Lexi, but I think over the last maybe, 10 years, I think we've exponentially seen more interest, certainly from TA leaders, in using data to make people decisions. A little more science and a little less art slowly over the years. Would you agree with that?
Yes. And, I really am a longtime researcher. I started that Sierra Cedar HR Systems survey. It was actually called something else when we started it in 1997. And I started tracking first manager reporting, and then kind of in 2000 saw there was this group of technologies called workforce analytics, and it's since been renamed talent analytics. I'm sorry, people analytics and talent analytics, and it's got other names, but really it's just there's so much rich information about people, whether they're inside the organization or in the extended workforce, they're contractors or they're candidates wanting to get hired. And we just want to know as much as we can about them so that we can really do the best for them and the organization.
Well, and that's kind of my question to you, is that if we're collecting all of this information, all of this data, what should we be doing with it?
Well, one of the things we want to talk about today is inclusion, right? And I
Yeah,
apologize. I've got somebody outside my door making noise. Are you still able to hear me?
I am. It's landscaping day for you today.
Yes, it's landscaping day, and it's
This
just
is
the
the work at
worst
home
possible
environment.
time. All right, there you just activated the doorbell. I so apologize.
No worries.
He will go
So
away in a second.
that's okay.
So,
You actually sound just fine. You're
okay.
perfectly
So
fine. Yeah,
I'm
you can
sorry.
keep going.
Ask me your question again.
Well, I was just curious, like there's all of this data that we now have, and you could argue that we have more data than we've ever had before. What could we be expected to do with that data when we talk about an inclusion experience?
Yeah. You asked me in the introduction to tell you what I'm passionate about. And, having been a longtime researcher, I've been in the workforce for over 50 years now. I have been in I'm in the tech industry since I started back then. And, we haven't made as great of strides as I think we need to about diversity. If just looking at women in the tech industry, we're still not at equity with men. And of course, there's
Yeah.
a much broader, community of diverse members of the workforce that are not at equity as well. And then there's also, there's not equitable inclusion. So if we're talking about inclusion, people want to make a difference. They want to be able to be recognized for that difference. So I think that the topic of inclusion analytics, the inclusion experience, is a really important one that we can bring data to bear about, and with the purpose to improve it. With some of the research that I've done with our customers, I've been able to see that those that focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion actually financially outperform organizations that don't. So, there's a financial reason for focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's also just the right thing to do. It's just important that we be able to get the best of who we've got in the workforce, and that's why we need to include more.
Is that sort of the mission behind the People Intelligence Alliance, Lexy? Is that
Let me put this in context. The People Intelligence Alliance is a community of people who love data, like you said, and we're steering the future of work towards openness and transparency of data and collaboration. And I really personally want to encourage the talent acquisition community, especially those that create or use data to improve their processes, their results, to join our growing community, because we really need the wisdom of many. I was introduced to you through Jerry Crispin, and if your community is like Jerry, we just really want more people like you, and we want to know your knowledge about the data on candidates. We want to bridge the gap between it and supporting the best business decisions about them. And the People Intelligence Alliance, which I now am the chairperson of, we're responsible for content, and we do webinars, we do forums. The council itself is made up of practitioners that are dealing with the difficulty sometimes of getting data and using it. We've got vendors like Gloat and Medallia and Vizier, which is the founding member. We've got researchers like Stacia Garr, Kathy Underis from the Burson community, Al Adamson from PAFAO, and we've got an academic teaching on this. We've got a consultant from a major consultancy, Wes Wu from Accenture. So we're all kind of focused on the issue of data interoperability. That was our first theme. And then our second theme was to talk about inclusion analytics and the inclusion experience, because it's just such a great use case where there's just this plethora of data.
I want to get to the inclusion experience, but I want to ask you first, what does it mean to be a member of, like, if I'm a head of a talent acquisition function, and I like what you're saying about the People Intelligence Alliance, and I want to join. What does that mean for me? What's it mean to be a collaborator or a contributor to the PIA effort?
Well, so it's really easy to join. Just join. There's no cost involved.
just join.
But there's some things that you too need to believe in. We have this pledge, if you will, to place people at the heart of our work. Eradicate bias, make people count. So you've got to believe in that. And who doesn't believe in that? We want to connect information seamlessly, and we want collaboration. So with organizations that are practitioners, with experts in the field of TA, because we really think the wisdom of many can unlock innovation. And then we ultimately want to ensure fair, ethical, secure use of information while respecting the privacy of individuals. And, honestly, I think that the TA community, I've done research on TA, and sometimes I see that there's the TA community over here in the organization. There's HR, and there's people analytics, there's the business, there's hiring managers, and they're not all connected and collaborating. And we really need that. So we really need the wisdom of the TA community. So I'm sorry, long story. just join. What you get is access to the site, the webinars, the forums. We've got a ethics and privacy center where you can, download these principles, sample principles for an ethics charter. We've got sample privacy of data statements. But more than that, we've got a communicating community, if you will, that is really sharing their issues and how they're resolving them.
Lexi, is it expensive to join?
It's free.
We had to get that in there.
But yes, it's expensive to join because you really want to collaborate, communicate,
Right.
Ask questions, share your wisdom.
Lean in. That's what we want. Well, so let's talk a little bit about inclusion experience. I think you brought you got a slide you want to walk through. You want to see that yet, or do you want to set it up?
Yeah, would you set that up? Yeah, inclusion analytics is just a really great use case where multiple sources of data can be brought to bear to measure and improve the inclusion experience. What we're looking to do is to uncover the lived inclusion experience of employees. And, as I said earlier, I think people want to make a difference, to be recognized. And so this inclusion experience framework that you're seeing right now it illuminates the connection between all the moments in an organization where the organization itself, its culture, its leaders, its people, its processes show up as being inclusive or not. And then there's these signals, all this data that you can bring to bear that can then be correlated with key outcomes that really matter. And I can dig into this with you if you'd like, or ask a question about a particular area.
Yeah, well, why don't we do that for the sake of time, because we keep these at about 20 minutes. So let's just go down the outcomes that matter piece, because I think usually that's part of the conversation, right? When people are saying, well, what's in it for me? And I think you alluded to some of this a little bit earlier, but let's just kind of go through those four big takeaways.
So, again, the outcomes that matter around inclusion are that people want to be included. They want to be able to make a difference, and they want to be recognized for that difference that they're making. They want to be included in key places, where decisions are made. Look at the decision around hiring someone. We want a good candidate slate. We want good hiring managers to be involved in that, and they need to be of diversity that matches the candidate that they're seeing. And what we're seeing is then greater employee satisfaction of the hired candidate, as well as greater adoption of the person, inclusion of the person when they come on board. So some of these outcomes that matter can be, the data can be collected in these key moments, like in the employee processes related to, attracting and hiring the right person, doing the interview with that person, and ultimately hiring that person, in onboarding them, making sure that they're really well included. We have a great process at Vizier where everybody does their own social introduction, and they talk about their role and their passions and their background. And from that, everybody can reach out and include them in the various communities within the organization, whether they're Scotch lovers like you are, whiskey lovers like you are, IPA lovers.
I'll drink them both. If I'm being honest, I drink them both.
Okay. But, the point is, you bring up people on board, you want to include them as a whole person, not just for the role they're going to play. And then, you need to recognize that whole person once they're within the organization. I'm sorry, I'm rambling here.
Not at all. I do want to ask you though. There was a hot take and a hot take posted, I think recently, where it said that a more inclusive workforce experience starts with good design. So, and I think, Lexy, you were featured in that. It was a LinkedIn post. So I wanted to ask you, what does good design mean in that, right, to be relevant to that piece, and how is that important to a positive employee experience?
What a wonderful thing. And I don't recall the LinkedIn post, but, reflected in design to me is about, thinking about the outcomes that you really want to accomplish with something, whether it's financial or inclusion or employee satisfaction or, inclusive participation. And then it's all those places, that inclusion shows up or not, so this framework that I showed earlier is part of that design from my opinion. It's like, think about all those places where the employee is recognized or not, included or not, and then capture the signals, the data that can actually be used to show where you are with inclusion in the organization, how it contributes to those key outcomes. And from that, you can then improve upon it.
Yeah, I love that. You're talking about, and I think your slide said there are those moments that matter, right? And both from a company and from an employee standpoint, that view, and then those inclusion signals that then lead to ideally those favorable outcomes. And I think the roadmap that you've put up is super, super helpful.
Thank you, Chris. And you said it better than I did and much tighter. So you're hired. Please join us.
Well, hopefully the salary will be a little bit more than the fee for entry, right? So, Lexy, let me ask you. We got a new question that we're going to start asking all of our guests, and so here it comes. Are you ready?
Okay.
If you had to boil down your message today to be the title of a book, what would the title of that book be?
Apologies. Should have turned that off. The title of my book. Yeah, you asked me this earlier, and thank you for the heads up on it. Yeah, I was thinking.
I was going to say, we gave you a whole 30 seconds heads up, so it's.
Okay, here's mine. Everyone wants to love and be loved. How's that?
Wow. That's powerful. So I'm going to ask you, who is the first person you'd give a signed copy of that to, and what would you write inside the jacket sleeve?
Everyone, and I love you.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. Lexy, thank you so much for joining us today. We were so excited to have you on. I'm just so grateful for your time.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, I'm going to put Lexy in the green room, and I'm just going to share with you that upcoming on May 17th, our monthly CXR lecture series, we're doing Remote 3.0. And that is, I think the topic there is shifting a working from home experience to an effective working from anywhere strategy. So members can join us to see what that actually means. Also, Barb Hyman from Sapia AI is going to talk with us here on the podcast about the humanity that's needed in AI and what she's doing about it. Coming up on May 19th, we have a member and alumni meeting. You probably heard me promote that last week. That means if you have ever been a CXR member, you are 100% welcome to join that with us. So it's for current and former members. We're talking about transparency in talent acquisition. So don't miss out, because we're going to start to cash in on this call to action around transparency and baseline practices in our space. So these and much more you can find at cxr.org/events. And also don't forget to subscribe and listen and share the CXR podcast. And you can also catch up, obviously, on there are hundreds, believe it or not, of previous episodes out at cxr.works/podcast. So until next time, we'll see you around.
Thanks for listening to the CXR channel. Please subscribe to CXR on your favorite podcast resource and leave us a review while you're at it. Learn more about CXR at our website, cxr.works, facebook.com and twitter.com/careercrossroads, and on Instagram at careerxroads. We'll catch you next time.